Hi guys! Alright, is Ms Adrianna here? Ready for another story time? This week we're doing mythology. I am stoked. So excited. I couldn't see for a second. It's great. Alright, so we're going to do I'm Gonna Like-a, which is the song activity that I do at the beginning of every story time, except for last week, which I forgot to do. So, boo. But it's okay because we're doing it now. Alright, let's get started. I'm gonna hop, hop, like a kangaroo, hop, hop, like a kangaroo, hop, hop, like a kangaroo, hop, like a kangaroo. I'm gonna swing, swing, like an elephant, swing, swing, like an elephant, swing, swing, like an elephant, swing like an elephant. I'm gonna waddle, waddle, like the penguins do, waddle, waddle, like the penguins do, waddle, waddle, like the penguins do, waddle like the penguins do. I'm gonna side step, like the crabs do, side step, like the crabs do, side step, like the crabs do, side step like a crab. We're gonna sit down, like the children do, sit down, like the children do, sit down, like the children do, sit down for story time. Okay, so some of you may be asking, Ms Adrianna, what's mythology? Well, you're about to find out. So, most of us know the stories like Hercules, right, the son of Zeus, and we know about Zeus, and we know about some of the goddesses like Aphrodite, whose love inspired a war, right? So those are myths. Those are specifically Greek myths. But did you know that all the early peoples of the world had their own mythology? It's true. Have you ever heard of King Arthur? There you go. There's some British mythology for you. So, every early peoples have had their own mythology, which are stories that explain how things came to be. And these stories usually include some sort of supernatural being or event, or include animals that can do humanistic things like talking. Right? And so we're going to explore some of those today. And since everybody knows so much about Greek mythology, we're going to do just a couple of stories with that. I want to focus really on some other parts of the world. Okay? So, let's get started. This book is called African Myths. Now, before we get started on this, actually, I want you to notice something. Do you see here on the spine? That says JNF, which stands for Juvenile Nonfiction. And then there's a call number right here, which is 398.2. So, our nonfiction is sorted by numbers instead of letters, and each number belongs to a specific group. So, 398 is the mythology section. So, you will find a lot of these stories in nonfiction. Now, you may be asking, Ms Adrianna, why is the mythology in nonfiction if the stories are made up? That's because some stories that, even though they may be made up, do belong in the nonfiction section. You'll often find like plays and poetry and mythology in the nonfiction section because they are historic and a part of culture, and that's where we learn about that stuff. So that's why this would be a nonfiction book. Alright, so African Myths by Neil Morris, and he didn't actually write this. He wrote this book, but he didn't write these myths. He just took what he had heard or what he had read previously and made his own stories from that. So these are stories that have been passed down for generations and generations. All right. And this book is published by Skyview Books, which is an imprint of Windmill Books. And there are so many great little stories in here, all the way from Africa. So today we're going to read Anasi and the Chameleon. Anasi the spider was a trickster, and he thought he could outwit anyone. One year, when his harvest was not so good, Anasi decided to take over Chameleon's little field. The lizard complained to the other villagers, but no one would listen, so he plotted his revenge. Because of course, what else are you going to do? Chameleon dug a very deep pit, covered it with a roof, and left just a tiny hole for a door. Then he caught hundreds of flies, tied them to dried vines, and made a brilliant cloak that shone and buzzed in the sun. When Anasi saw the cloak, he had to have it. Chameleon said he would sell it for a store full of grain. Anasi agreed and ordered his sons to pour grain into Chameleon's tiny storeroom. But they poured and poured for days and weeks until Anasi had no food left. All the villagers laughed at Anasi the spider, and ever since then he has hidden in the corners of houses. So that's why your spiders live in the corners at your house. Also, side note, spiders are fantastic friends to have around. Now, some can be dangerous, but most of them are very, very good for the ecosystem, right? They eat bugs and they help keep some of the bad things away, and they really won't harm you. So remember, if you do find a spider in your house, have mom and dad capture it and take it outside and relocate it instead of killing it. Because spiders are really, really beneficial, and they're your friends. They don't want to hurt you. They just want to live their own little spider life in peace. So save the spiders and don't kill them when you see them in your house, alright? The next story we're going to read is called Why Monkeys Live in Trees. Bush Cat was so tired after a day's hunting that she fell asleep at the foot of a tree. When mischievous Monkey saw that cat, he crept up and tied her tail to the tree. When she woke up, Bush Cat struggled for ages to unravel her tail and get free. She guessed that it was Monkey who had played the trick on her, so she decided to teach him a lesson. So she called all her animal friends together and told them what to do. On the 5th day from now, she said, tell everyone that I'm dead and that you're going to bury me. 5 days later, the animals did as their friend asked. Bush Cat lay on the ground, pretending to be dead. All the animals stood around sadly, including Monkey. Suddenly, Bush Cat jumped up and sprang at Monkey, who raced up in a tree in terror. And that's where monkeys have lived ever since. So that's why monkeys live in trees. And then I do want to point out that Anasi is originally came from myths from the Ashanti people who live in present-day Ghana. Okay, and that's a small country in Africa. And what's fascinating is that oftentimes Anansi is a trickster and a hero, but sometimes he's human or half human. Has anybody ever heard of Spider-Man? So. And then a bush cat is the several of southern Africa. So if you've ever gone to the zoo, you might see a several there. All right. And that's it for our African myths. Do Not Open: The Story of Pandora's Box by Joan Holub. and is published by Simon Spotlight. Long ago, the Greeks wondered why their gods sometimes let bad things happen to them. They wrote this story to answer that question. There once was a woman named Pandora. She was smart and friendly, but also very curious. Pandora lived with her husband. They were very happy. So was everybody else in Greece. The gods took care of them, but the people were not thankful. So the gods decided to teach them a lesson. The Greek gods sent a box to Pandora's house. It was golden shiny. Who sent it? Asked Pandora's husband. Who cares? I love presents. Well, let's open it, said Pandora. No, there's a note on it that says, do not open. Just forget about the box. But Pandora could not forget. She wanted to know what was inside the box. She couldn't think about anything else. Maybe the box is full of candy, Pandora thought. She sniffed at the edges of the box. She didn't smell any candy. Maybe the box is full of music, thought Pandora. She listened to the box, but she didn't hear any music. Maybe the box is full of jewels, thought Pandora. It could make us rich. She tried to peek, but she couldn't see inside of it. I will open the box, Pandora decided. I will look inside, then I'll close it again. Nobody will ever know. Pandora pulled on the box's lid. It did not open. She pulled harder and harder. Suddenly, the box popped open. Hundreds of bugs flew out. They stung Pandora. Ow! She yelled. And her husband ran in, and bees stung him too. Why are you hurting us? He asked. Because we are trouble bugs, they said. The trouble bugs flew outside. They made trouble everywhere they went. People began to fight. They got sick. They felt sad. Even the flowers drooped. Look at what you've done. I am so sorry, said Pandora. She shut the box, but it was too late. The world was already full of trouble. Let me out, shouted a tiny voice. Who said that? It came from the box, said Pandora. There's something else in it. Pandora opened the box again. A fairy flew out. Whoa, who are you? I am Hope, said the fairy. I help people who are in trouble. Hope kissed Pandora's bug bites. And she kissed her husband's bug bites. Right away, they felt so much better. Now I must say goodbye, said Hope. I must go help other people too. Wait, cried Pandora. What if we need you again? I will always come back when you need me, promised Hope. The fairy flew away. Soon she brought hope to everyone around the world. And she kept her promise to Pandora. Hope always returned when they needed her. Sometimes bad things happen, but we hope things will get better, and we hope for good things to happen. Native American myths. And again, this one is written by Neil Morris and is also published by Skyview Books, which is the imprint of Windmill Books. And again, this is another book that is just full of different small stories. And I've selected a couple, okay? And I do want to talk about this introduction first. Okay. Do you see that? That is the world. These are all of the continents. Many thousands of years ago, they were all together instead of split apart all across the world. They were all in one spot and they were all connected, and it was called Pangea. Okay. Many thousands of years ago, hunters in search of food crossed a narrow land bridge from their Asian homeland to North America. Today, this strait between Russia and Alaska is covered by sea. These ancestors of Native Americans were the first people to reach America. Groups of them moved south. They crossed mountain ranges and rivers to reach vast plains, forests, and deserts. So, when they came from Asia and they crossed that land bridge that used to connect between Russia and Alaska, they were the first people to settle, and they are the ancestors of our Native Americans. And then eventually all of the continents broke apart and drifted away from each other, and that is why we now all live in very, very separate, different places. Alright, our first story is called Raven and the Moon. One day, Raven overheard an old fisherman talking to his daughter about a box of light. Now, Raven was a trickster, and he loved shiny things. Has anybody seen Moana? Shiny! Yeah. No. So he turned himself into a baby boy and spirited his way into the old man's house. The daughter was delighted when she found the baby. I love babies. When the baby started crying, the woman gave him toys to play with, but the baby pushed them away. One day, the fisherman brought out a beautifully carved box. The baby grabbed the box from the man and opened it. Inside, he found a smaller box, and inside that, another, and then another. When at last the baby opened the 10th box, he saw a bright round ball. He turned straight back into a raven. He took the ball in his beak and flew out of the smoke hole. Then Raven flew high and threw the ball into the sky, and there it remains to this day. We call it the moon. So that is the story that Native Americans told on how the moon was created. Right. Our next story is called Little Deer. Long ago, when humans discovered the bow and arrow, they started hunting too many animals. They even killed those they did not need for food or clothing. The animals met to discuss this problem. The bears were angry and wanted to fight back and kill the humans. Other animals disagreed, but had no idea what to do. Then Little Deer spoke up. Humans will always hunt animals, he said, but they must show respect and hunt only when they need to. Otherwise, they'll kill us all. First, they must hold a ceremony to ask permission to hunt. Then they must ask forgiveness for any animal they kill and respect its spirit. All the animals agreed with Little Deer's wise words. So that very night he crept up to the sleeping hunters and whispered in their ears, telling them what they must do. The next morning, the hunters thought they had been dreaming, and from then on, they followed all the new hunting rules. And this is actually something that happens across many different cultures. They have specific rituals that they do when they kill an animal for food or for their fur or, you know, whatever parts that they use. And it was a tradition for Native Americans to use every piece of the animal that they killed to show respect and to make sure that they weren't being wasteful. And so they used bones to make weapons and jewelry and plates and all kinds of stuff. And they used the pelts to make clothing, and of course they ate the meat and some of the other organs. And they did this to show respect for the animal that they had killed. And they always had some sort of a ritual, like it said in the story, to ask permission and then to ask forgiveness. And like I said, this is seen across cultures. In the Muslim community, they eat only specific types of meat that are clean and that are killed in a very humane way, and it's very important to them. So this is something that is commonly practiced all across the world and by all different kinds of people, and is very, very important. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed our story time and you learned a ton. That's one thing that I really love about mythology, is that it lets you learn about so many different cultures, and it's just, it's so much fun. So I want you guys to create your own myths. Have you ever looked at something and thought, how was that created? Or why is that a thing? I want you guys to look at those things and make up your own stories about them. All right? And I hope that you guys share those with us. We would love to see what you say about how things are created or made, and why people act certain ways, and why animals act certain ways. All right? And I hope you guys look more into different kinds of mythology. I love Greek mythology, but it's not the only one in the world. So branch out and learn about as many countries and as many cultures as you can. Knowledge is power, and knowledge leads to a more peaceful and compassionate society. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Bye!